Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Shri Harim Paramanandam Upadeshtaramishwaram Vyapakam Sarvalokanam Karanam Tam Namamyaham Aparokṣānubhūtirvai Prochyate Moksha Siddhaye Sadbhireva Prayatnena Vikshaniya Muhurmuhu. So, author introduced the 15 angas, 15 limbs, 15 steps of that Jnana Yoga. So that's the Patanjali Yoga. This is the Jnana Yoga. Yoga here is of the nature of Nididhyasana, or meditation upon the self, or meditation upon Brahma, seeing Brahman. So every step involves basically seeing Brahman. And in a very unique way, every step is interpreted as knowledge of Brahman. So it is Yamaha, Niyamaha, Maunam, Desha, Kalaha. So Yama, Niyama, Maunam, Desha, place, Kala, time. When you really think about any of these things, it only turns out to be Brahman. So these no more remain practices. In traditional yoga, all of these are practices. Basically at the level of mind, and asana at the level of body, pranayama at the level of the breathing, and then other dharana, dhyana at the level of mind, yama at the level of interaction, niyama at the personal level, following various vows or various disciplines. So all of them involve some activity, which is fine. I mean, where it is fine. This is nothing to comment about yoga as such. But the author says that having now known what Brahman is, having known what Atma, the reality is, then there is no need to follow those kind of steps or activities. For this seeker, what he should now do is simply, he understands, he knows what Brahman is, just seeing Brahman. That is all that you have to do. This is called the Nidhyasana. And doing that, you are automatically accomplishing all the steps that the Yoga Shastra is talking about. And therefore, in each case, in a very unique way, the author has interpreted those words to mean only Brahma Jnanam, knowledge of Brahman. Continuing, So, Anganam Samatam, verse 115 we saw. So, all one by one different steps are being explained. Deha Samyam, Asanam, Moolabandhasya, Deha Samyam. Deha Samyam means the straightness, straightforwardness of the body. As you said, where the head and the neck and the trunk are in a straight line, which is what is recommended for concentration of mind. Even that also is interpreted only as the seeing of Brahman, knowing Brahman. Now then next way is the Druksthiti. Is concentrating or focusing your drishti, focusing your sight upon some object is also one of the common practices in yoga. It is this drishti, meaning the sight. You focus upon a flame or some object. Is also recommended for concentration of mind. Because if the eyes become steady, the steadying, making the eyes steady also becomes a means of making the mind steady. So, Druksthiti is the concentration of focusing off the sight. That's what the literal meaning is. What should be the meaning with reference to yoga that we are talking about? That's what the author now explains in the verse 116. Drishtim jnanamayim kritva pashyed brahmamayam jagat sa drishtih paramodara nanasagravalokini. So usually what they prescribe is focusing your sight upon a point. So nasagravalokhanam. So Lord Krishna also says that may you make your mind samam kaya shirogrivam dharan achalam siraha sampreksha nasikagram swam. Swam nasikagram sampreksha. Focusing your sight upon the tip of your nose. Nasikagra. How to interpret that word also? There are two interpretations. Some interpret that saying that you have to focus, that you are asked to focus your attention or sight on the tip of the nose. Some say no, at the root of the nose, between the eyebrows. But in any way, there is a prescription of fixing your sight. And therefore, that practice of yoga is now described, drishtim jnanamayim kritva. So instead of nasagramayim, when you look at the tip of the nose, then the drishti or your cognition is the tip of the nose. The thought in the mind is the tip of the nose. So wherever you focus your drishti or sight, that becomes the object of a perception, cognition. That's what you see. So you see any object, you can focus your attention on any object, let us say. So here the teacher says, Drishtim jnanamayim kritva. Drishti can be the sight with which you see the form and color. Drishti also can be the mind's drishti. So seeing by the mind, seeing by the eyes is one drishti, one seeing. Seeing by the mind is another thing. Vimuraha, so pashyandi jnana chakshushaha. Lord Krishna also is expressing jnana chakshu. The eyes in the form of knowledge. And so says rather than seeing things through these eyes, convert your drishti, your sight into the seeing by knowledge, sight by knowledge. So for example, we can see this pot. So one thing is to see the pot, the name and form of the pot. That's what the eyes see. In the mind, you can see this as clay. Or further, you can see this as your earth. Further, you can see this as asti bhati priyam. So whereas the eyes see name and form, in your mind you can see what the true nature of this is, and that is asti bhati priyam. So seeing this object as asti bhati priyam will be jnanamayi drishti. It is the drishti of the nature of jnanam, meaning that convert your drishti, convert your seeing into the seeing by knowledge. So this physical seeing, which reveals before you the names and forms of the physical objects. So rather than that, let you bring in your jnanam, bring in your knowledge, and let your mind see through the sight of knowledge that this is what? Brahman. Asti bhati priyam. So drishtim brahmamayim kritva, jnanamayim kritva. So your drishti, your seeing, instead of the seeing will be through the eyes, let it be seeing through the knowledge. See through knowledge. What is it? Pashyed brahmamayam jagat. When you see that the jagat is brahmamayam, is all pervaded by Brahman. Just as when you see this ornament says, this suvarnamayam, it is nothing but the modification of gold, it is nothing but gold. So you see the ornament all right, with this drishti, with the eyes. In your mind's eye, you see this as gold. So the eyes reveal the jagat of names and forms, but in the mind, you see nothing but Brahman, which is reality. The eyes reveal that there is a beggar. In the mind, you see the actor there. Or if you're watching, as I said, the annual function or the cultural program in the Gurukulam, where children present different kinds of play. So if your parents are watching, and what my eyes reveal is maybe a gatekeeper. What I see is my son. So these eyes reveal the external names and forms because that is only the reach. These eyes only can reach the names and forms, can only reveal the colors and forms. But the mind's eye can reach the truth if there is a knowledge. Jnanamayam kritva. So now that you have knowledge that what is Brahman, Brahman alone manifests as the world of names and forms. And that even the drashta and the drishya, what is Brahman? Drishya, the object, also is Brahman. Drashta, the seer, also is Brahman. And therefore, even when you see the universe, your mind's eye, you see nothing but Brahman. So, re Brahmamayam. So, what is this Brahmamayam? What is nothing but what is pervaded by Brahman? Brahmamayam means modification of Brahman. It's not modification of Brahman. It's something that is superimposed upon Brahman. And therefore, when you see the adhisthānam also, the substratum. So while you see the name and form which is superimposed, when you see the adhisthānam, substratum as Brahman, which is our own self. So drishtim brahmamayam jnanamayam kritva pashyed brahmamayam jagat. So when you see the jagat as brahmamayam, not jagat as name and form, but jagat as manifestation of Brahman. You see the fact that Brahman alone manifests through every name and form. So even when you see the name and form, you see this fact that this name and form is the manifestation of Brahman, of asti bhati priyam. Brahmani phalavyapti abhavepi vrittivyapyatva drishtim. How can you see Brahman? So when you see this part of name and form, a corresponding thought takes place. Can there be corresponding thought of Brahman? He says, well, as far as vritti-vyapti is concerned, it is there, phala-vyapti is not there, meaning that, yes, there is a thought of Brahman, that what is Brahman? Brahma-vedam sarvam, this is all Brahman, that vritti is there. So the jnana vritti alone is called drishti here. Not chakshushi vritti. Now drishti is called chakshushi vritti, meaning that the cognition that takes place by perception through the eyes, but here the cognition that takes place by virtue of the knowledge that what is manifestation of Brahman. So Brahmamayam Pashyed Brahmamayam Jagat Sa Drishti Paramodara. This is the most noble drishti. Seeing something as mundane stuff, as names and forms, as perishable, as different from each other, as limited, perishable. So rather than seeing things and concluding that this is perishable, this name and form, this one is different, that is different, this is bigger, this is smaller, this is superior, inferior, likable, dislikable. So when our drishti, the perception is confined merely to name and form, then this is the kind of response that will happen in the mind. So looking at the world in that way is not a noble way of looking at things. But looking at, even though objects appear to be perishable, even though they may appear to be miserable, even though an ornament may be very ugly, even though a pot also may be shapeless. So this is shapely, shapeless is one way of looking. This is clay, that is clay is another way of looking. So when we only confine our vision to the name and form, which is chakshushi drishti, or the perception through eyes, all we can note are the various differences, and our mind necessarily will judge that this is likable, dislikable, superior, inferior, good, bad, different from each. See, divisions. There's not really respecting things. When you respect them, respect that this is manifestation of Brahman, manifestation of gold, doesn't matter how it looks, how small it is, how big it is. And though this is the most noble vision, most noble drishti, because we have now raised everything to the level of Brahman. No more now we look at things as mundane, limited, perishable things, but now in our mind's eye, we have converted or raised everything to the level of Brahman. So how much respect? What is the most respect that I can give you? I can give respect by saying, oh, you are my friend. That's also respect. You are my mother, respect. You are a saint, respect, yes. What's the highest respect that I give you? You are Brahman, even more than that, you are myself. The greatest respect I can give to anybody is what? You are no different from me. You are me, I am you, you are I. Sadrishti paramodara. Where ultimately in our own mind, they divided between, although I see, but the mind registers what? The adhishthanam, the non-duality. And therefore, what more respect? Parama udara drishti. Meaning looking at something in a most noble way. So, nanasagravalokinī, not that drishti, not that seeing the tip of the nose and stuff like that. So that is all mundane stuff. This is a real, so drukstiti, this is a real sight. This is the real seeing, focusing our attention. So focus your attention on what? Not the attention of the eyes, attention of the mind's eye. On what? On what the reality is. That really my attention is focused upon what is Brahman. So that's the real focusing of the eye, focusing of the drishti, focusing of the sight. So this is then the question is asked, no tathapi brahmani vritti pravritti nimitta jatyadi abhavat indriyadi pratyaksha vishayasya jagata brahma rupatvam darshanam katham syat. So earlier verse prescribe that this indriyadi pratyaksha, the world that is perceived by the sense organs, by the eyes, ears, etc., that is a jagat, and that is, we are asked to look at that as nothing but manifestation of Brahman. See Brahman where you see the jagat. How can you do that? You are seeing only jagat. How do you see Brahman? In fact, you see Brahman by Bādha Samanadhikarana, meaning that you negate the name and form in your... So in your mind, the name and form is mithya, is only a costume, and so you are seeing what is manifesting through the costume. So Bādha takes place when you want to see this as Brahman. Just as when you see the beggar, Bādha or negation takes place of his costume, and you see the one that is actor. But still, that is not only seeing it as Brahman, because the names and forms also come in some way. So then another little definition is given, explanation is given of same. So so what is called the druk sthiti. So concentration of the sight. Or no. So another explanation is given. Drishti darshana drishyanam viramo yatra va bhaved drishtistatraiva kartavya nanasagravalokini. Va shabda pakshantar, or take it this way, or this druk sthiti, this focusing of the sight, take it this way. What way? Drishti darshan dushyanam viramo yatra va bhaved. In the earlier seeing, there was a drishya, the object, the subject, and the seeing experience, except that there was a bādha, negation, and there were, although with my sense organs I perceive the object, subject, and the interaction, in my mind's eye I saw only what was the content. Instead here, you cannot drishti darshan dushyanam virama yatra, or you can go a step further and not even see the name and form. Appreciate the fact that drashta, the seer, also is consciousness. The seen also is consciousness. The seeing also is consciousness. And therefore, simply focus your attention on consciousness. I am, the consciousness is, meaning that now stop seeing even name and form. So therefore, there is no drashta, there is no seer. Formerly seer was there. He was bādha, he was negating what is mithya. So formerly darshanam was satya and mithya, both were there. What the sense organ sees mithya, what the mind sees is satyam by the negation of mithya. Instead of that, we just see the satyam. So what is the source of the drashta, drishya darshanam? The subject, object and experience, all of these have origin merely in one consciousness. Therefore, drishti ityadina shrotradi sratripudina, meaning seer, seen, seeing, hearer, her hearing, etc., etc. Every interaction involves this triad: subject, object, and the experience. So when all the three are resolved, yatra yasmin brahmaswarupe tripudinam virama bhaved. All the three things are resolved, meaning that I no more retain the status of seer through the sense organ. I no more retain the status of experiencer. Then even experience are also resolved in the very consciousness. So then object also gets resolved, the whole tripudi, all the triad also is resolved. No question of bādha, etc. now. So you are no more aware or no more seeing the names and forms. All you see is this, the Brahman self, that is, and never where the seer, seen, seeing, this triad, it completely resolves. By appreciating the fact that the seer also is consciousness, the seen also is consciousness, and seeing also is consciousness. So where this tripudi, this triad also resolves completely. Drishti tatreva kartavya. So tasmineva prapanchatite. So formerly the sense organs were appreciating prapancha and the mind was appreciating Brahman. Now the sense organs don't appreciate anything. Now I am solely focused only on what is prapanchati, the meaning that what is the adhisthana, substratum, the consciousness of the self, where all the duality, even apparent duality, formerly also real duality was not there, but apparent duality was there. Now in apparent duality of subject-object, it doesn't remain. That is the ultimate in what they call druk-sthiti, ultimate in focusing the attention. So this is the real attention. Where should we pay attention? Of course, for the practice of concentrating mind, etc., you may pay attention to some object, or the tip of the nose, or to some place in the body, etc. But ultimately, the real attention is to pay to that which will ultimately bless you. He is paying attention to consciousness, the self, and that should be called, in the true sense, the druk-sthiti, or focusing of your drishti, focusing of your seeing. The nasagra avalokini, not looking at the tip of the nose, etc. So this is now the deha samyam. The body is described, the posture of the body is described, the state of the body is described, the drishti is described. So these are all the steps that are in fact prescribed for slowly and slowly withdrawing your mind and doing meditation. So those steps are taken one by one. The place where you will be, time, at what time you will do, the posture, asana, the straightness of your body, and then focusing of your drishti or the sight. Next is what now? Pranayama. So yama niyama are done. Asana and now pranayama. Part of asana itself is the position of the posture of the body, the state of the body, also the concentration of the sight. Now next step is pranayama. So ayama, asamanta dhyama, completely restraining. So pranayama means completely restraining the breathing. Not breathing. Ultimate meaning of pranayama is completely restraining the breathing. Not in one day. But the yogis practice and slowly they come to a point where they stop breathing and still continue to live. Because what happens, they say, is that very subtle kind of breathing takes place through a sushumna nadi. So there is the small nerve that passes through a spinal cord. It's called sushumna. So Ida, Pingala and Sushumna. The Ida, Pingala and Sushumna. So normally we breathe through all these Ida and Pingala, breathing out and breathing in. But slowly the yogi has now, through the practice of restraining the breath, has been able to now activate that passage, through which very subtle kind of breathing takes place. So he does not need to breathe, meaning that since his body is completely stilled, essentially no process going on in his body, he requires very little energy to survive, to exist, continue. And therefore, the oxygen, whatever you get through little, very subtle breathing through the sushumna itself is enough for the yogi. That's how actually the breathing has stopped. So mind has stopped. He is in what we call samadhi or complete absorption. So this is the purpose of pranayama in Yoga Shastra. So what kind of pranayama you are prescribing now? The goal is the same. Yogi also wants a complete absorption. He wants complete stoppage of thought and thereby abidance in the self. Tada drashtuhu sarupa avasthanam. The ultimate objective of all this practice, which culminates into completely stopping or cessation of the thoughts in the mind, is to gain an abidance in the self. Tada drashtuhu sarupe avasthanam. Then, when now there is a cessation of all the thinking, at that time now, All that remains is consciousness. You, endeavor, you abide in your own self. So here we are directly doing that. Rather than through all that process, by knowledge. So here the author prescribes the same thing. Abidance in your own self. Not through all those practices, through knowledge. So this is the Vedanta's way of analyzing, inquiring into the nature of reality of life. Inquiring into, understanding and knowing the reality of life. What's the reality? That is the subject and that is the object. Well, if you think that object is different from subject, then you have to stop that object. If the mind is real, you have to stop the mind. Vedanta says the mind is not the problem. Giving reality to the mind is the problem. Identification, that's the problem. Yoga thinks that existence of mind is the problem. Vedanta says giving reality to the mind is the problem. If you don't give reality, then mind itself on its own will also resolve. So therefore, what the yogis seek to achieve through the practice of yoga is what the Vedanta seeks to achieve simply by understanding or by knowledge. Because what is Brahman? You don't have to attain Brahman. You don't have to achieve Brahman. You don't have to become Brahman. You have to do nothing. Just recognize what is, that's all. So this is Vedanta's solution to everything. And there every step amounts to only seeing what is. So let's see how now pranayama is explained. Chittadi sarva bhaveshu brahmatvenaiva bhavanad nirodhas sarva vrittinam pranayamassa uchyate. So Vedanta says, so what the Yoga Shastra is doing, and it's of course all proven and by, but what the Yoga Shastra does is from gross to the subtle, from outward to the inward. So first of all you control your behavior by yama, by not doing what you should not do. By niyama, doing what you should do. Then asana, meaning that gaining control over your body. Then pranayama, gaining control over breathing. Then gaining control over your mind. So, from the body you go to prana, from prana you go to the mind, from mind you go to the freedom or mindlessness or freedom from thought. So this is how they proceed. Meaning that they seek to control the mind through controlling prana. That's what Ramana Maharshi explains also. That chitta vayava chit kriyayutaha shakhayodvai shakti mulaka. That this mind also is a form of energy, manifestation of energy. And prana also is manifestation. Prakriti is energy. So primordial energy is called prakriti. And what we call prana is the manifestation of that. And mind also is the manifestation, same energy in a subtle way. So both these energies, prana and the mind, are comparable to two branches emerging from the same stem. One energy from which these two branches are emerging. So when you lower one branch, since it comes from the same root, the other branch automatically gets lowered. So if you lower the branch called prana, then mind also gets lowered. And that's how the mind is thought to be controlled by controlling prana. If the prana is breathless, then the mind also gets disturbed. And therefore, they slowly, by control means they make the prana slower and slower and slower. The mind also in response gets slower and slower. If prana stops completely, mind also will stop. Which is what they do. From gross to the subtle. Vedanta says, wait a minute. It is not that the mind is controlled by prana prana is controlled by mind. Prana is set up. So prana in fact directs the mind and sense organs, not the other way around. So why should you want to control the mind through prana? Control the mind directly, so is mano adhinatvat pranasya. Because prana is in fact under control of the mind or dependent upon the mind. Because prana is gross, mind is subtle. Mind is subtle and internal. And prana is gross and external. So what is within controls what is without. So mano adhinatvat pranasya, since prana is dependent upon the mind. Mano nirodhenyo prana nirodha. So pranayama means the controlling or stopping of the prana. You can accomplish that by stopping of the mind. So pranayama, rather than don't do anything with prana. Do something with the mind. And not also controlling the mind also. But which way? So chittadi sarabhaveshu. So the mind has different kinds of thoughts. Manaha, buddhi, chittam, these are the different kinds of thoughts. So manaha is what? The sankalpa vikalpa. The desiring, etc. is manaha. And then buddhi is decisions and knowing is buddhi. Chittam is the memory, is the chittam. So these are different kinds of bhavas, different kinds of thoughts. So chittadi sarabhaveshu. It's the word vritti, here the teacher is the word bhava. So bhava means something that exists. So prana also means something that lives, something that exists. So thoughts also exist. So thought is called prana. And that is called bhava. Bhava means that which exists. So here the word bhava is used for vritti. So chittadi sarvabhaveshu. In all the states called chittam, meaning all the different states of the mind, all different thoughts. Brahmatveneva bhavanat. May you now appreciate the fact that every thought also is nothing but Brahman. Every thought also is nothing but Brahman. Because thought also shines. Thought also is never apart from Asti and Bhati. And therefore, thought also is nothing but Asti Bhati, is nothing but Brahman, nothing but consciousness, nothing but the self. See this fact? So rather than doing anything with the thought, so even though he says by controlling the mind you control the prana, but controlling mind also is not an action. Controlling mind is seeing what the mind is. There is no action involved in any of these things. Only seeing is involved. So see what the mind is. Mind is full of thoughts. And as our Swami would say, so what is there between the two thoughts? Although our thoughts are running so fast that there is nothing between, we don't even see that when the one thought ends, the other. But then suppose you are able to slowly, quieten your mind, then there is a thought and silence, a thought and silence. Or you can imagine at least there is silence. Because when the two thoughts are there, one thought has to end, other thought has to begin, there is some kind of a space must be there between two thoughts. Otherwise thoughts can't be different. If one part is this, other part is this, some kind of space must be there between the two. Then only you can distinguish one from the other. So what is there in the space between the two thoughts? Silence, 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 thought, silence, thought. Meaning what? Every thought emerges from silence and merges back into silence. This silence before the thought, silence after the thought. So they say that what is before and what is after is in the middle also. So this thing was gold before it was created. When it is melted, it will be gold again. So in between, when it is this ornament, it's still gold. So therefore, the thought emerges from silence. Thought merges in silence. So in between, what is there is silence in that form only. So formless silence, silence is a thought, again formless silence. So what is silence? So instead of focusing attention on vritti, on silence. Silence. So instead of saying thought, silence, thought, silence, thought, silence. So ultimately, thought itself merges into silence because you give reality to silence. So thought is nothing but silence, nothing but consciousness. The witness of silence is silent witness, consciousness. So really the content of every thought is nothing but consciousness. Consciousness alone, taking a name and form, is called thought. And thought alone is nothing but when it is tangible, is an object. Consciousness with a name and form is called thought, and thought corresponds in object. So consciousness becomes thought, and thought becomes object. That's how creation takes place. There's also one prakriya, one method of understanding creation. Oh, Akash, Vayu, Agni, it's one way. This is another way. What is a thought? What is an object? Nothing but, we went through the exercise. An object is never apart from its thought. A part is never apart from part thought because you will never know the part unless thought is there. And thought cannot be unless the part is there. Therefore the part object and part thought are never different. So part thought alone becomes a part object. What is part thought? Consciousness, the name and form. So consciousness first manifests as a thought, and thought manifests as this tangible object. This is all creation. What is consciousness? So what is thought? Nothing but consciousness. So therefore, chittadi sarabhavesu brahmatveneva bhavana. See the fact that all the thoughts are nothing but consciousness, Brahman. Nirodha sarvrittinam, that all the vrittis are thought, stopped. Meaning vrittis are there or not doesn't matter to you. Because what is there in your appreciation is only consciousness. Vritti arises from consciousness. Vritti remains in consciousness. Vritti merges into consciousness. What is consciousness? That is you. So what remains is you. Vrittinam, sarvrittinam, nirodha. The vrittis themselves are stopped, and when vrittis stop, prana will stop. So pranayama means stoppage of prana, but accomplished by stopping the vrittis. That accomplished by seeing what are the vrittis. Because vrittis are not there as far as Vedanta is. What is this Brahman? So vrittinam nirodha means not stoppage of vritti, recognizing that vritti has no real existence. What exists only is the consciousness. So seeing all the vrittis as consciousness, as a self, means vritti has disappeared. When vrittis are not there, prana also is not there. So pranayama is accomplished. The stoppage of prana is accomplished. By stoppage means by seeing the vritti as mithya and seeing the self as satyam. So that is the Vedantin's way of pranayama, meaning seeing all the thoughts as nothing but consciousness. So they say that you can't do the other, you cannot control mind by controlling prana because the unnatural, natural thing is the subtle controls the gross. So mind controls the prana. Stop the mind, prana is stopped. Now pranayama is described as rechaka, puraka, kumbhaka. Puraka, when you fill up, you breathe in and fill up your lungs, that process puraka, filling. When you breathe out, then you empty your lung, that is called rechaka. So rechaka is rejecting, puraka is admitting, kumbhaka is stopping. So these three kinds of prana, that's it. Rechaka, puraka, kumbhaka. Kumbhaka or stopping the prana can be both antah kumbhaka, meaning stopping inside. So you breathe in and then hold it there. Or you breathe out and hold it there. That is what the bahya kumbhaka. That's all right. So these rechaka, puraka, kumbhaka. So these are the traditional kinds of breathing. So what do you prescribe? So next verse tells us. Nishedhanam prapanchasya rechakakhyas samirana Brahmaivasmiti ya vritti Purako vayuriritaha Tatastad vritti naischalyam Kumbhakah prana sanyamah Ayam chapi prabuddhanam Ajnanam ghrana pidanam. So, Reshaka means emptying out. So, what do you empty out? Nishedanam prapanchasya. Empty out the whole prapancha. Not just the prana is bhava. So, word prana is used for bhava or what exists. Means all these objects and names and forms. So, emptying out prana is, if prana means bhava or things that exist, emptying out of everything, emptying out of the whole prapancha of names and forms will be real emptying out. So don't confine your emptying out merely to emptying out of the breath. Empty out the whole universe, whole prapancha. How? By recognizing that name and form is mithya. So says there, Nishedanam prapanchasya Reshakakya samirinaha. Nishedanam, negation of the phenomenal world. Negation of the name and form. Here, for example, Nishedanam, negating a name and form is object, you see it as gold. So when you see this object as gold, this bangle as gold, effectively you have emptied out. You have negated the name and form, meaning emptied out the name and form from your consciousness. See, emptying out is throwing away. So simply by focusing your attention on the gold, you know what you have done? You have essentially emptied out the name and form, the ornament. Is it not so? That's called emptying. What is feeling? That this is gold, this is gold, this is gold. So negating the name and form is emptying out. Appreciating this as gold is filling in. And retaining this is gold alone is called stopping. You follow? So emptying, recognizing the universe as the name and form is mithya. By recognizing name and form is mithya, you emptied out all name and form. By recognizing Brahman as Satyam, you are filled. And retaining that I am Brahman, that is called retention of prana, retention of the truth, retention of what is. So emptying out of what is not, filling in of what is, and retaining what is. So name and forms are not there because they don't have reality. So for empty out, by recognizing names and forms are mithya, so they are not there. Then focus your attention on Brahman. I am Brahman. So you fill in Brahman in yourself. That's called filling in. And retain that I am Brahman. So that is how the prana of the nature of knowledge is retained. So again, prana also is knowledge. By knowledge, you empty what is unreal. You fill in what is real, and you retain what is the truth. So nishedanam prapanchasya rechika samirina. Samirinam also means breath. Samir also is breath, samirina also is breath. And so this is called the emptying out of the breath. Is what? Emptying out of the name and form. Emptying out of the prapancha. Emptying out what is unreal. Brahmaivasmi, then what remains? I am Brahman. Brahmaivasmi diya vritti. Then the knowledge, the thought that I am Brahman, that is called puraka. That's called filling in. Having emptied out what is unreal, filling in what is real. Tattad vritti naischalyam. Tatastad vritti naischalyam. And thereafter, steadying that thought that I am Brahman is called kumbhaka. So then, no emptying out, no filling in, just retaining, I am Brahman. That's called kumbhaka. So that is the base pranayama. Ayam chabi prabuddhana. Nanu ayam trivido pranayama na kutrapi shrutah. We have never heard of this pranayama. We have heard of the pranayama where emptying out the breath and filling in the breath and retaining breath. That we have heard. This thing, that prapancha is mithya, emptying out, that I am Brahman is filling in and retaining I am Brahman. This kind of definition of pranayama we have never heard. So, it's quite understandable we have not heard. Ayam chabi prabuddhanam. So, this is pranayama for the enlightened people. Ajnana for ignorant people, another kind of pranayama is there, Ayam pranayama chakarat. So, Vedatraya yukta, whether you call Rechaka, Puraka or Kumbhaka, all that pranayama, prabuddhanam. So, emptying out the unreal, filling in the real, as a self and retaining, this is pranayama for prabuddhana. Prabuddha. So prakarshena Buddha. Buddha means enlightened, woken up. So Buddha means one who is woken up. Prabuddha means one who is very well woken up. So every day we wake up all right to go back to sleep. When you very well wake up, you never go back to sleep. When you wake up from the sleep of ignorance, then again going back to sleep of ignorance doesn't remain, so that is called prabuddha. So, yes sakshat kurde prabodha samay. Waking up from the sleep of ignorance is called prabodha. So prabuddha, those who have woken up from the sleep of ignorance. And therefore there is no doubt now. Asambhavana dirahitattvena. The knowledge is so clear that there is no vagueness, there is no doubt, and therefore it's abiding knowledge. Buddhanam, Atmavoda Yuktanam, those who are endowed with this self-knowledge. Nissandeha, Aparokṣānubhūti, those who have the immediate knowledge, free from doubt and vagueness. This is the Ayamcha Prabuddhanam. This pranayama is proper for the enlightened people. But this is for the Vautari Ajnana. What about the pranayama for ignorant? Prana grana pidanam. For ignorant, the prana is what? Grana means what? The nose. Pidanam is what? Torturing the nose. That's what you do. When you want to in fact restrain your breath, that's what you do. From one nose and close this and then open that, etc., etc. Ultimately, the yogis do that without even restraining the nose. But we have to do that. So in order for the breath to flow only through one nostril, I have to close the other one. And then I open this and I close this one. Ideally, a time comes when you get such a control that without closing, only the breath flows through one nostril. But that day will come. But for normally, all breathing exercise always involve the torturing or restraining the nose, So for the ignorant people, what is breath control? Is torturing the nose. That's how pranayama is explained. What is next? Pratyahara. So now the author explains what is pratyahara. Idanim pratyaharam lakshayate. Now the teacher gives the lakshanam, the characteristic or definition of what is pratyahara. Ahara and pratyahara. So our sense organs have ahara. Our sense organs enjoy the food. Ahara means food. The sense organs enjoy the food of what? Sense objects. So sense organs enjoy the food of sense objects. When they no more enjoy that pratyahara, when you withdraw from that. So when these sense organs are withdrawn from their preoccupation with sense objects, meaning that the whole sense organs are completely withdrawn, made inward, then no activity at the level of senses. So slowly we are proceeding in the Yoga Shastra, after the control of breath, then slowly you also withdraw all activities from the sense organs, meaning that you gain the control so that the sense organs now remain in their locations. Eyes don't go out anyway to see things. Ears do not go out to hear things. And similarly, no organs of perception go out to the respective objects. They remain where they are. So when they remain where they are, now there is no distinction between the sense organs and the mind. In fact, what we call the sense perception is nothing but the extension of mind. Mind alone goes out to the sense organ, to the object, etc. When that activity doesn't take place, what remains is mind. Meaning that now the sense organs have assumed the form of the mind. So svavishaya asamprayoge chittasya swarupa anukaraha iva. So this is how pratyahara is described. And you can see that translation in your translation also, on page 88. When the senses giving up their objects take the form of the mind, svavishaya asamprayoge, when the sense organs now give up their activities in the sense objects. So now when the sense organs do not interact with sense objects, and what happens to them? Chittasya swarupanukaraha. The sense organs only follow the mind. Then sense organs take the form of the mind, meaning that sense organs now do not have an existence separate from the mind. That state is called pratyahara. When now you are completely withdrawn your attention from the sense objects. So now you are slowly withdrawing all the way up to the self. First withdraw from sense or objects, and then slowly mind is withdrawn, and ultimately it is made one with the self. So this is the process in Yoga Shastra. So what about, how does the Vedantic teacher prescribe pratyahara? Withdrawal of sense organs. So that is being said in the verse 121. Visheshvatmatam društva manasasthiti majjanam pratyaharasya vigneya abhyasaniyo mumukshube. So the teacher says that all right is right. That when the sense organs take the form of the mind, so then sense organs no more remain as though what remains in mind, this is called pratyahara. He says, why do you want to retain the mind? Ultimately, mind also has to become absorbed in the consciousness, and that's real pratyahara. Meaning the purpose of withdrawing from the sense objects ultimately is only to make yourself one with consciousness. So therefore, rather than simply stopping at withdrawing from sense objects and sense organs becoming one with the mind, so mind still remains, we suggest that you withdraw from mind also. Visheshu atmatam društva. So rather than the process of withdrawing the sense organs, again that involves action. Withdrawing the sense organs. Here it says, Visheshu atmatam društva. See that the Vishaya or the objects are nothing but Atma. So see the Atmata, the state of self in the sense objects. So the sense objects are Ghatapata. So either you have the freedom to withdraw your sense organs from this and make them inward looking. It's a process. So rather than that, see this object, to shift your attention from the name and form to the content of the object. So either the withdrawal can be a process of actually carrying out the inwardness, or withdrawal can be simply shifting the attention. You withdraw from what? To what? If there is anatma, then you withdraw from anatma to atma. If the sense organs is one entity, mind is a sense object is one entity, sense organ is another entity, mind is third entity, and prana is fourth entity, and you are fifth entity, then all these things come. But who says? What is his Atma? So then, when sense organ doesn't remain sense organ, what withdrawal is required? That's called withdrawal. When sense organ, sense object itself is transformed into self, which is what it is. Even though this is called a part, has a name and form, what it is Asti Bhadi Priyam. And that is conscious, that is the self. So Visheshu Atmatam Drishtva Visheshu Ghatadeshu Yadva Shabdadeshu, or Ghatapata is the sense of the objects of the eyes, and sound etc. the objects of other sense organs. And so Vishaya means the object. Either you can say object is part, or you can say object is color. Either you can say this object is part, or this object is color. Because eyes only see the color. Then our organ of, ears or organ of hearing only hear the sounds. Then a sound is word is a recognition that takes place in the buddhi. See, this object is a part. Is a conclusion of the buddhi. Not eyes do not say this is part. Eyes simply reveal the color and therefore the form. And then in my mind there is memory that this kind of a thing is called part. Therefore there is recognition that I say this is part. If someone has never seen a part, he will only see the form, that's all he will see. That's what the eyes show you. So even though we say the eyes see the part, eyes only see what? The color and form. Then we compare this with what in our memory, and then we say this is part. That's called recognition. So therefore when I see you, all that my eyes show is the shape, etc. So my mind says, hey, this is so and so. That's a memory. So perception and memory together results into recognition of what it is. Therefore when a state comes, or what they call dementia, when the memory is not there, perception is there. Who are you? He will tell his wife, or whatever. Who are you? Meaning that sees that there is somebody, but memory is not there to connect it. So recognition is not there. You follow? Recognition requires memory. When memory goes away, recognition goes away. We don't recognize people. We see them all right. So either you say that you are seeing part, you can say you are seeing color or form. You follow? So what is Vishaya? What is object? Either part can be called an object, or a color and form can be called an object, just technically speaking. Either a word can be called an object, that you are listening to words, or you are listening to sounds. So Vishaya means object. So whichever way you want to understand. So the Tikakara, Vishayeshu Ghatadeshu, objects such as part, etc., or objects such as color, etc. You follow? So Anvaya Vyatireka Abhyam, by Anvaya and Vyatireka, that when the object is, when the self is, the object is. When the object is, the self is. When the object is not, the self is. When this object is, Asti Bhadi Priyam is. When the other object is, Asti Bhadi Priyam is. The third object is, Asti Bhadi Priyam is. So even the objects are all different from each other. But what is the content of all the objects? Anvaya, what follows, Vyatireka, what excludes. So even though a form is excluded, object is excluded, Asti Bhadi Priyam cannot be excluded. So as the different ornaments come, you can see Anvaya. When bangle is, gold is. When earring is, gold is. Vyatireka, when bangle is, gold is not. Earring is not. Earring is, bangle is not. So these forms exclude each other, but they do not exclude gold. Similarly, one object excludes other objects, but they don't exclude asti, bhati, priyam. So, anvaya vedirekabhyam, recognizing that what is object is satta sfuranata priyata matram kham vayugnir jalorveshu devatiryang naradeshu abhinnaha satchidananda vidyate rupanamane. So Durugdisha Viveka says that objects in Deva, Deva gods, Tiryang animals, Nara human beings, etc., etc. In all of this, or Kha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, Urvi, space, air, fire, water, earth, all different from each other. Or these are insentient. Or sentient beings, animals, human beings, trees, plants, different from each other. So they all differ from each other. Avinnaha, Satchit, but in all of them, what does not differ is Asti, Bhati, Priyam, Satchidananda, Vidyate, Rupanamani. So what distinguishes them is the name and form, but the Asti, Bhati, Priyam is no different. Therefore, what is Upeksha? Nam Rupe Dve, Satchidananda Tatpara. Text says, be indifferent name and form because they're unreal. Focus attention on Asti, Bhati, Priyam, which is real, which is a self. So Vishayeshu Atmadam Drishtva, and that way seeing Asti Bhadi, the very self, as the content of all the objects. Manasa Chiti Majjanam. Then the mind in fact becomes absorbed in Asti Bhati Prem. Because that's what is mind? Mind is a thought corresponding to the object. So if in your perception is a part, then there is a part thought. Cloth, cloth thought. Clay, clay thought. Asti Bhadi Priyam, Asti Bhadi Priyam thought. Asti Bhadi Priyam, Asti Bhadi Priyam thought. So what has happened? All the names and forms have merged into what? Asti Bhadi Priyam. Means all thoughts. Because what is thought? Is Asti Bhadi Priyam plus name. And therefore all the mind, all the thoughts have now resolved into Asti Bhati Priyam. So Manasa Chiti Majjanam, what we call mind or thoughts, have merged into Chiti or consciousness or Asti Bhati Priyam. Pratyaharasya Vijnana, that is called Pratyahara. That's called the real withdrawal. Withdrawal not confined merely of the sense organs, but even of the mind also. What's the withdrawal? Not even stopping the mind. That the mind completely merges, meaning the reality of the mind also is consciousness. Therefore, the mind also has no reason to be there. So seeing everything as consciousness itself, that is called real pratyahara. And therefore, nama rupa kriya anusandhana rahityena. Do not anymore give reality to name and form. So every object is characterized by name and form and function. That changes, but that is Asti Bhadi Priyam doesn't change. And therefore, see this Asti Bhadi Priyam as a very self. So therefore, you ignore, be indifferent to the name and form and function. So what remains is avasthanam, abiding in Asti Bhadi Priyam, with the chit, consciousness, your own self. Thus, abiding in the self is real withdrawal. Pratyahara is withdrawal. The real withdrawal is abiding when the mind completely resolves in the self. Not merging in the self, it resolves in the self. So, abhyasaniyo, the mumukshus should do this pratyahara. The seekers of knowledge should do this pratyahara of resolving everything into the self, which is consciousness. Then what? Dharana. So pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana. What is dharana? So dharana is deshabandha, chittasya dharana. That's how dharana is explained. Meaning that bandha, binding the mind in a place, focusing your attention or concentrating the mind on the object of concentration is called dharana or concentration. So after pratyahara, meaning withdrawal of senses, next step is concentration of the mind. Dharana. So see, slowly you are coming from the physico to psycho. That's how the Yoga Shastra proceeds. It's a wonderful thing. I mean, it's very scientific and very wonderful. Except not that we are negating that. Except you don't have to do that. When you're studying Vedanta and contemplating, you don't have to do this. Because by jnanam, very knowledge, you can accomplish all that a yogi accomplished by practices. That's all the author has to say. So next verse is Yatra yatra mano yati brahmanastatra darshanat manaso dharanam chaiva dharana sa paramata. Yatra yatra mano yati, wherever the mind goes, Brahmanas tatra darshanat. So now you have to focus your mind on something. Focusing of the mind on a chosen object is called dharana, it's called concentration. So it can be one of these centers in the body. So you can focus your attention on the heart, in the Agnya chakra, at the bottom, in the Mooladhara. So there are several, so Yoga Shastra prescribes several points of concentration. So dharana can be in an object outside you also. In the sun, moon, stars and things like that also. Or it can be on a devata. Or it can be on a point in your body. Like Mooladhara. Like the root, of the spinal cord. Or different chakras which are there. And so, concentration, focusing the mind, one of those is called dharana. So mind, that is the dharana. So alright, so concentration of the mind is called dharana. So what does our teacher prescribe here? Yatra yatra mano yati brahmanas tatra darshanat. Where the mind goes, you see the fact that this is Brahman. So even the chakra also is Brahman. If you are conscious sun, that also is Brahman. So meaning that concentration of mind on an external object such as sun and the moon also is nothing but Brahman. So why do you confine your concentration on name and form? Why don't you proceed a step further and recognize that instead of concentrating the mind on name and form, concentrate in the content of name and form, which is Brahman. No, that doesn't require activity of mind. It requires seeing. You see, the thing is different. Concentration is activity of the mind. Concentrating on this object. Seeing the object as clay doesn't require activity of the mind as much as it is knowledge, So similarly also the dharana, the concentration that is prescribed here is, wherever the mind goes, don't worry about any particular object of concentration. Yatra yatra mano yati, wherever the mind goes, let the mind go. So Vedanta is not worried about the mind. Not worried about what the thought is. Doesn't matter what it is. Prakasham cha, pravrittim cha, mohameva cha pandava. Na dveshya sampravruttani, na nivruttani kankshadi. Lord Krishna says that even in the mind of the wise person, a sattvic thought may arise. A rajas thought may arise. A tamas thought may arise. He is just totally equanimous to all the thoughts. Nadveshti sampravruttani, if an undesirable thought arises, he does not reject it or he has no aversion for it. The nivritta, or if a good thought goes away, he doesn't go away, please come back. Thoughts come, thoughts go. Doesn't matter what the thought is. Because regardless of what the thought is, my focus is on what illumines the thought. That's the consciousness, that is myself. So actually, the form of the thought is of no consequence when you focus your attention on the content of the thought. The form becomes important when thought is real. So as long as thought is real for me, as long as a particular thought makes me happy, some other thought makes me unhappy, so long it is important that I maintain particular kind of thoughts and avoid other kinds of thoughts. That's called Antahkarana Shuddhi, purification of mind. But when you realize that thought is nothing but consciousness in a name and form, object is nothing but asti bhadi priyam. So yatra yatra manoyati, wherever the mind goes, yasmin padarthe manoyati gacchati, in whatever object the mind goes, tatra tatra brahmana sattadi matrasya. Appreciate that object, same thing, is asti bhadi priyam, namadi upekshaya. Be indifferent to name and form. Meaning be indifferent to the specialty of the name and form, object. Doesn't matter what the particular aspect of the object is. Doesn't matter what the form of the ornament is. You simply focus your attention on the goal, which is the content. And similarly also, it does not matter what the object is. If you have to concentrate the mind, then you choose a particular object which you like. So, for concentration, you choose some object that you like, which the mind wants to concentrate. You can't concentrate on a donkey, monkey, etc. But here, see, this is not a matter of concentration, it's a matter of seeing. Doesn't matter a monkey also. That is also Brahman. And donkey also, that is also Brahman. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever is nothing but the name and form is good, bad, indifferent. The content is Brahman. So, namadi upekshaya. By being indifferent, meaning by recognizing name and form are mithya. Darshanat, and you see anusandhanam, meaning that you focus attention what? On the content which is Brahman. Manasa dharanam, brahmaniva sthirikaranam dharana. There was sthirikaranam, manasa sthirikaranam dharana. And therefore steadying the mind is called dharana, concentration. Here, steadying the mind in Brahman. So that we'll call the dharana by our definition. Nanu adharadi shatchakra madhye ekatra manaso dharanam dharana prasiddham. Wait a minute. The well-known meaning of dharana is focusing your attention on one of the spiritual centers, whether it is Mooladhara, or the Vishuddha chakra, whatever chakras are there, Ajna chakra, Anahata, etc. So that is called dharana. What sort of dharana you are talking about? He says, so dharana paramata. At uksalaksha para, the dharana that we talked about, meaning focusing attention on Brahman, this dharana, this concentration is the most exalted concentration. For whom? Tatvabodhavatam. For those who are the knowers of truth, for them, don't worry about that dharana, may you only have this dharana. That what is Brahman? Concentrate upon Brahman. Anya, the other well-known dharana is, of course, according to the Patanjali Yoga, is all right. But, so, manaso dharanam chaiva, there is cha and eva. Both are indeclinables. So, Tikakara says, this is something well known, even though ordinary people may not know this dharana that we are describing. Understand that as far as the wise people are concerned, they are very familiar with dharana. So dharana of this nature also is well known to the wise people. Even though it may not be well known, so you are asking what sort of dharana is this? We understand dharana as focusing, concentrating attention on one of these chakras, etc. So that is all right. But as far as wise people are concerned, they know this as dharana. So not that it is unknown. Maybe unknown to you, but is known to people who really know what it is. So cha and eva, chaka, both these indeclinables, vidvat anuva prasiddhim devotayati, it reveals the fact that it is well known to the wise people. Okay, so I guess we will stop here this evening. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने देहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्ति। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।